Sure, someone saw an ad, but that's not what got them to buy. All of the 20 plus touches before they ever spoke to a salesperson. So as an executive marketer working with a CEO, it is so important to show progress to goals, but finding out what the right mix of it is really hard, because if it's too high level, they're not going to pay attention. And if it's too in the weeds, it's both irrelevant and it goes into conversations that you honestly don't want to be having. It just requires too much explanations. I sort of look at it in two ways, which is number one, always pipeline and revenue and marketing's contribution to that. And then you slice it and dice it in different ways. So it'll be new logo, and then it'll be on the customer and retention expansion side. Then you can slice and dice it into your different segments. So if you have an SMB, mid-market enterprise. But you always, I think, really have to start out with revenue being the gold star and pipeline as a leading metric, and then showing how those happened. So what were the channels that contributed? What were the campaigns? Because I think one of the biggest questions that you get, honestly, as a marketer at any level, is what's working and what's not working, what's moving the needle. So if you always frame it in terms of revenue, I always find that the most helpful. But a major caveat there is how you're being measured. So I'm a big believer that if you measure by first touch attribution or last touch attribution, you're not telling the entire story. And so I really strongly believe that you need to look at multi-touch and influence, because if you're looking at first touch, sure, someone saw an ad, but that's not what got them to buy. All of the 20 plus touches before they ever spoke to a salesperson, those should all count, as well as all of the marketing that you're doing afterwards. And then same on the customer marketing side. Nobody's sourcing anything there, or mostly not sourcing things. So I really think you need to look at influence. But that's really only, so that's a baseline. I report on that monthly, quarterly, yearly. But that's not all that marketing does. And what I also make sure to do is, for any high profile activities, let's say, it's a major trade show or your own conference, or if it's a big product launch and then you redo the website, that is probably the only time I will get into more granular metrics. And that's because even myself, I know as a marketer, if I have a new website, I'm not going to see a lift from that right away. You have to have conversions, you have to have meetings, you have to have opportunity, the deal has to close. Even in SMB, that's going to take some time. And no one wants to wait that long. Everyone wants to know at the end of the first day, how are things going? So that's an exception that I'll make to be, a little bit more granular. So for outreach, when we had Unleash, I was doing weekly updates at first on how many people were registered. That's not really a success metric, but again, everyone wants to know how it's doing. Or for example, we were testing out new messaging and I was sharing, pretty frequent updates on the A/B test. Those are not things that I would normally do. But again, it's really unrealistic to expect a CEO to allow marketing to spend so much time and effort, and not just their own time and effort. These big campaigns, you have sales involved, product, customer success, they're gonna want some similar metrics, or they're gonna want early metrics to see. So in those cases, I will talk about click-through rates or downloads, but as soon as I can get away from those, that's when we get to pipeline as the leading indicator.